for sake of time, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. We're just going to put this one right here. And I'm going to hard code where these files are. And that's totally fine for this. You wouldn't, right? You would just look in your folder because we downloaded them. That's fine. Let's get some. So I do like that it gives me kind of my template here, right? Because I always do method and the method name. That way when it errors out, I can see it. Again, these are log files. Notice we're getting all of our errors, which is pretty cool. So I don't know what that's giving me, but I'll take it because we're going to need it. What is that doing? Data. Yeah, that may be kind of what we want. I don't want to return it though. Let's see. For each, no, I'm sorry. For D in data print. Oh, it should be a list, not a dictionary. So I don't know why I thought it was a dictionary. It wouldn't be that. All right, so we say, let's just see what print D, print type D. And let's just see what this gave us, because I'm kind of curious if this actually worked. The only problem is it should be one level deeper than that, right? So, because now we got bronze. So let's do bronze. Okay, so we're good there, we're good there, good there, good there. I should take those breakpoints out. Okay, and we're good there. It's going to download those again, which we probably should stop that. Files and buckets. Let's take that out, and then just go. Now here's what I want to see, so let's step in. Okay, cool. It did read the file. And it is, yeah, it's a list. That's what I thought. So I don't know why I thought it was a dictionary. All right, so now I'm not going to return anything at this point, but I'm going to say print stop. We may return our merge data, but right now we're not going to. So for each, let's name this a data file. Would that make more sense? So data file, because that way it can be a CSV, it could be anything we want. Okay. We got it. Oh, we got an error because we're not doing anything yet. So, but let's open this. So we need to open it for each. Let's do with open D. Actually, that might have been what I wanted. Let's do it again. D. Nope. I like the beginning. So because we need to know D as file. And then from here, we're going to say data. So I use the term data way too much. Data equals JSON.load F. And I'm just kind of curious. We're going to put a little timestamp in here. So start time equals, and we probably should move this, but I'm kind of curious. Time.time, and then we'll do it in time here. And time equals time there. And then what we can do is we can actually print this out so we can see. That's fine. That would tell us how long it took to execute. So let's see what's going on here. Remove all these breakpoints. So we're downloading. We probably should actually put our timestamp on that download because I'm kind of curious. Stop, done. Oh, it caused an error. So yeah, that's what I was kind of worried about. So let's do it again. Break. Let's get rid of all these. Now keep in mind, we're downloading every single time. That's how fast this is running, especially the size of these files. But what is this? Oh, we've already read the file. Oops, we did it up here. Sorry. So let's clean this up. Looping through, getting the JSONs and that kind of stuff. But but I think I'm just going to make this stupid simple just for the sake of getting things done. And we're going to call this metrics data equals, and then we just wanted to call bronze metrics. It's not .json though, it's whatever this file is. So rename. Okay, and then we're gonna have our values. Data equals the same. Cool. And then we're just gonna pass those in. So we're not gonna do this right now, because all this works, right? We're just going to ignore it for now. And because I want to get on to actually doing this part. So we'll come back, maybe clean that up afterwards. But this is pretty much going to be hard-coded. Let's see. So we're going to create a metrics file. That's fine. Because I'm going to set two values of, see how it does that? And then I have to hit the backspace because I don't want any of that. So I'm trying to spell metrics, data equals, and I'm just going to set this to none. Okay, and values to none. Sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's not. Like that's helpful, but when it put all the other garbage up there, that wasn't helpful. All right, so now, yeah, that might work, but now I'm going to do it from here. Say, so this is metrics data equals JSON load. Okay, so that's all I need there. And then we're going to mimic this with open values file as read, and values data equals JSON load. Okay, and then print, just for kicks and giggles, print metrics data, and then print values data. Okay, cool. Because we just need two JSON files. That's all we really need. And then we're going to merge those with pandas. And that's kind of where, then we'll be done. So, oh, what happened? No, so it doesn't like these paths. So open, oh, we got to go one more, don't we? Data, there we go. Okay, now we should be fine. Let's go again. Okay, and that should give us some JSON. It did, and our values. It did. Okay, cool. So that was a lot. It was like an hour of just figuring stuff out. So now what we want to do is I want to bring in pandas. Do I have pandas installed? I think I do, but let's just make sure. Pip install pandas. Yeah, we're good. I'm going to go upgrade my pip real quick. It won't take but a second. It's not a big deal. It just gets rid of that error message. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to say import pandas as PD. That's kind of the best practice, right? So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now let's go back down to here. And we're going to say we want to validate too far. Let's close all this. We'll come back and deal with this later. But what we're doing is I don't need these prints anymore. Okay, unfortunately, I got to use a space bar, which is a pain. So we're going to say if length of metrics is greater than, because I want to make sure there's values there, right? So greater than 0. And that's not going to be right because it's a dictionary. So I think we have, I don't know, let's say metrics. Well, I don't know if we can do that because we don't have a parent metric. So I don't know if we can capture it that way. But we're going to see print found. Okay, that's we're just going to test this real quick. I may just not care about that right now. In other words, if there was a value, I could say if that value is, but it's just a big long array. So I don't know if we can just say that. But what is the length though? Okay, so we're going to try it anyway. In other words, what I'm getting at is it may still be blank, right? Or an empty array and still come back. But we'll just leave it there for now. So let's do, what's next? So we're going to say df1 for data frame equals pandas, not from dictionary. We're going to do, so there's this cool thing called JSON normalize metrics, and that's going to give us a flat version. Now what that does, even though our JSON's flat, now this is kind of where this gets important. We're going to grab this other one anyway too, even though we're not going to do it right now. And it wants to concatenate it, so we'll see what that does. All right, so let's stop there because that's a lot of bouncing around, but it may give us what we want. So what normalize does is if you have embedded JSON, I like doing it this way, and I've done it before, but let's say your metrics has a name like ID, and then inside it would actually be name dot or name underscore whatever the next cascading parameter is, right? So I need like Tim, what does that mean? Let's see, so let's just say JSON embedded embedded object. So if you look at this right here, I don't know if I probably should have picked that one. Okay, so it would say data underscore stuff underscore one underscore name. Okay, and it may do that, or it may be a dot. I did it before and I looked at it, but I don't really remember. But you'll recognize it when you see it. It's just going to be that path, right? So just the path. So in this case, data stuff one type ID, and it flattens it for you, which is kind of cool. Now I did write a flattener before, but this is fairly new, and this actually works great. Okay, so we're going to do that. Technically, I should also check to make sure if the values here is null, but at this point, I don't really care, right? Let's just get it done. So the other thing I want to do, the reason this kind of jumped out is, let's see, how do I want to do this? Let me just run this and see what we got. Yeah, because there was another level that I could have done, but let's do df print df1, whoops. Because this is going to come back as a data frame, and it's kind of airing out because of the scope, right? This is within that, but who cares? It would still work. Let's step over, and step over. Now I can look at the data frame here, which is what I want to do. So here, this is flat to this point, and that's fine. Okay, and then the next one is flat to this, which is good. Okay. Now, the reason I like doing this is if I needed to remove columns, or if I needed to manipulate columns or rows, then Pandas is the right way to do it. And if you've never worked with Pandas, there is so much that you can do. We'll talk about Hive in a few minutes. That was kind of a pain, but luckily there is a thing for it. Maybe I'll do a video just on Pandas, but there's so much machine learning, not machine learning, I'm sorry, so much data. Well, you can probably do machine learning too, but there's so much data. Well, I was hoping that I'm looking for this maybe. Yeah, maybe. Nope. I was trying to find the commands. But there's a lot that so think of a data frame as an Excel spreadsheet, and then once it's an Excel spreadsheet, you can do a lot of stuff like look for missing data, reshaping the data, which gives you your columns and your rows. You can change the data types. There's just so much you can do here that you can't do with just basic stuff, right? So the idea of our ETL is we're bringing it in here to manipulate some of this data. And to create a row, let's say for an example, so I have something called values. I could simply, let's say I want to split the values because I've seen this, and let's say it's in a comma. I could do something like df2, and I could call it values. And here I can do something like, well, kind of that, but we're going to do it ourselves. So df2, and this is value. No, I'm sorry. It's not values. It's a value. But see right here, I can change its type to a float, which is kind of cool. But I could also come in here and let's say I want to split this. Let's say it's in a comma separated. So here I could say apply lambda and give me the last in that array, and that would take it out of there and stick in there. So I do have a use case where I'm using this, and it's a list in this one in this one column, and I only want the last because the last is the latest. Or I could split it or whatever I want. But what this is going to do now in df2, there's going to be a column called values. Now this wouldn't work because this is not an array, but just show you how that kind of works, I could just say values. We could say, but here's an example of dropping. If I want to drop, I can drop in place 2, and we'll talk about the axis in a few minutes because it's one of the ways we're going to link. But I could just say that equals that plus df2. It's not unit, but what's another value here that we can grab? Plus max, just for fun. Okay. Now, of course, you wouldn't do a plus. You could do something different, but let's just see what that gives us. Okay, so we'll debug again. And where are we? Okay, so now in our 2, if I go in here and look, and I say view data frame, and if I jump to the end, I now have values, not value, and it's going to be the value plus the max, right? So there's a lot of things you can do. You can do aggregate functions, you can do min, max, sum, which is part of aggregate functions. There's a lot of things you can do with pandas that will help scope your data. I can look for nulls. If it's a null, then I can change it. A lot of machine learning, a lot of data science, that's the word I was trying to get on machine learning, but a lot of data science and a lot of data manipulation and all that uses pandas because it's fast and it's relatively easy. It's like working with Excel spreadsheets. All right, so but what are we going to do? We're going to put these two together, okay? So we're going to, oops, maybe concatenate. Let's see. I want to do it myself. I don't want the tooltip here to help me. So if that's long, I want to do a merge diff. No, merge. This thing will drive you crazy. Merged df, and that's what I want. So I want to concatenate my D1 and D2, and I want the, well, no, I don't want to do that yet. What I am about to do that, but what I want to do is set my indexes. So indexes, think of it as index keys, right? As like primary keys. I found out I delete more with this little tooltip than I usually do, so shift delete. But what I need to do now is say df1 dot set axis. So it's setting your index. No, I don't axis, index. And I want to set it on ID, and I want it in place to be true. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to say in this dictionary, if you remember a few seconds ago when you saw the dictionary, I want this ID to be a primary key, and I want this ID to be a primary key. So that's kind of what we're doing now. So now anything can be a primary key within reason. You don't want dupes, right? I mean, I guess you could. I don't know if it will error out. I've never tried that because that's bad practice. But you want to try to be careful. And then now, since I've set both of those as primary keys, now I can join on those. And join is exactly what you think. So we could say, so I don't want to concatenate. Concatenate pretty much puts them together, but it puts them side by side. We want them to be joined together, right? So here we're going to use df1, and I want df1 to join. Now this is kind of cool. So I want df1 to join df2, and it's going to know to join on the indexes. Now the order can be outer, it could be inner, it could be right, left. We're just going to go with the default, but just know that that's an option. That's kind of cool. In fact, I'll put this here. So if you don't see the data you expected, just like in SQL Server, maybe your join's different. Okay, so now my data is always going to be the same, but like, let's say if I want all the data from df1 and part of the data from df2, if it's not found, then, I can do a join for that. So there's a lot that you can do. You also do grouping, you can do sorting. But let's see. So now we have that. What I can do now, I need to, one thing that's very important with your data. So can I still see these data frames? I can. No, I can't. So now let's talk about S3 and how something called a crawler works. And I may do a different video on crawler, but you're going to see me do that. I'm definitely going to do a different video, but I may do a detailed one. Crawler allows Amazon to look through your data and try to set up a table structure for you. And that's how you use Athena. So we're going to have it do it for us, but there's some rules about that. And I try to be smart about that in the database. The one thing that it uses is Apache Spark behind the scenes. Now there's options, but that's one of the reasons it does it. And you can use PI or PY Spark in your code to do a lot of stuff. I like to keep it stupid simple. So I want to do it without that, but there are some rules. Now it uses Hive as well as its rule structure. Now the thing about Hive, this is not a structure I can put in there because there's commas, and I can't have it as an array. It's got to be a one straight line all the way across, or it's going to error out. Okay, so we need to clean that up. So let's run it real quick. I want to see what my tables look like joined. Oh, and there's things like it wants to be everything in small case as far as your column names go, not your values, but small. I mean the columns. And the columns can't have things like periods, right? Which I was talking about if you concatenate your JSON to a flat JSON. Sometimes it creates periods. You can't do that. You have to use underscores. So with saying that, Pandas is great for doing that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do is kind of clean up a little bit of this data just to show you how. Now, I did it on purpose in the database. Notice I have no underscores. I have nothing like that. But what we can do is maybe just clean some up. Now notice it's flat, which is kind of cool. So I have this person, the description, the details, the min, the max, the value, and the timestamp. So I guess I should talk about how cool that is. Now I already did the timestamp correctly, but you may have to convert this to a timestamp, right? Especially if you want it to be a timestamp. I don't know what value it is. Maybe we'll look at doing that too. But these, we'll let the crawler figure out what those are. They could be integers, they could be floats, but it's smart enough to say, I've noticed you had periods, maybe it's a float. Can I download this? Oh, see these things like show column statistics? A lot of this is also just pandas because it's a data frame. I should be able to, yeah, let's export this to a CSV, that's fine. Oh, I want the column, oh, add row headers. No, column headers, that's what I want. So that's all I really want right there. I don't care about the data. So copy. And let's go ahead and minimize this because we're going to clean some of this up. Now, you don't have to do this if your data is correctly, but 99% of the time, our data is not going to be correct. So these are our columns here. Now, to make this work is very simple. We're going to say, first, let's do, just for kicks and giggles, let's say merge diff. This is more me teaching you, right? But what we're going to say is we're going to set the column value type, like string, integer, or something like that. Now, I know the name is, well, first of all, you get the column. Well, there you go. So it kind of did it for me. But let's say we want to set name. We know it is, but we want to force it that way anyway. Okay. All right. So that's how you do that. Let's say I want to, you don't even have to do it that way. You don't, well, you could just do a dot. You don't have to do, yeah, as type. So there's a couple ways to do it. As type will kind of force it, which is kind of cool, but you can also do it that way too. So that will work. So that will force that to be a string. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do it this way. Okay. And then let's see what else we want. What I'm more worried about the names. So if I need to rename one, which is beyond common, Oh, remember the last one we added? So we added one up here. Let's drop it now. Or did I already take it out? Yeah, I guess I already took it out. But let's say you wanted to drop one. That's just as simple as doing this. And we could say dot. No, actually this, but I don't want that. So let's say if I want to drop the name, I'm trying to remember. So drop, and then it's going to be this, oops, backwards. This name, and then axis equals 1, which means just, you have to look at that, it's just the way it keeps it. And this does not say to a column. This actually saves it back to the data frame. So that will actually delete that one. So if you remember earlier, I did one where I added those two together. I thought I still did, but I guess I deleted it. But with seeing that, if you wanted to do math and add it to a column, use that column to do something and then drop it, you could do that as well. So that's kind of cool. And we're not going to worry about converting these yet. But the other thing I want to do is rename a column. Now, I think it's kind of tricky. So merge diff equals, oh, there we go, rename. But it did all the columns. I don't want to do all the columns. So what I want to do is column name. So it's renaming them all at once. So name equals name. And now you can do one at a time. So if I didn't want to do the name, so, well, okay, I like this. Description equals description. Details equals details. Minimum, max, value, time range. Maybe we want to call this one. Yeah, time range is fine. Now remember, you can't have caps and you can't have minuses or any other things like that. You have to have underscores if you want to separate the words, right? If you try to do, how's it doing that? Give me 1 second just to look at this. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm not sure why that's showing up there. And then we want to, oh, it's because I need to be a little bit inside that if. Well, no, I don't have to be. Yeah, it kind of wants you inside that if, because we're saying if that is blank. Then we're good there. So let's get rid of these columns here. Set column type, we talked about that. We need this to match our print. So we'll probably need to come in just a tab. We do right there, okay. And now let's get rid of all this because I have no idea what that was trying to do. I think it's where we're trying to dynamically read the file. So now we've got a merge diff. So the last thing we want to do is, for kicks and giggles, you can, oh, dang it. We're going to do that eventually, but not right now. What I can do now, just for fun, I can do merge diff dot columns, and I want to print those out just so we can see what they are, right? Fair. So print columns, and then let's return this. Return merge diff. Okay, because the next phase will be to bulk send this up to. So that's not going to work because that's now after our. That needs to come in some, okay. And, okay, so I think we're okay there. Do we never, yeah, we did. It's just inside the scope there. Okay, so that's fine. So, cool. Now, who's calling this? Refractor, if I had to guess, it's our start. So go to, oh, I keep saying refractor. Go to declarative, which is here. So that gives us data. Okay, so we're good there. I guess the biggest thing I want to show you now is how this actually looks, because there's this cool feature to write it out to Spark and Hive, right? So we can say with open, oops, I'm okay with that, but I don't want it to be that. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Merge, but our dump has to be a little bit different. So this is going to be a data frame. Okay, data equals data frame. So there's things we can do with the data frame besides this. Now, we want to make sure this is right, that's correct. And we're actually going to, Now it's going to put the word raw, but this isn't raw. This is actually merged. It pick up a timestamp because that's these, and I guess that's fine because that's the way the file is going to be too. But from here, what we want to do is write. So we don't want to do this. We want to write it raw. So f.write, and then from here, let's do data.toJSON. Okay, now let me get rid of this. And let me close this off because we're missing one. Oh, so 2 lines. Oh, I guess it put it up there for me. It did. Okay. But well, we'll look at that in a second. There's an extra that needs to go away. It needs to go back here. There we go. I think we'll look in a second. So write data to JSON. So it's going to convert it to JSON. Or this is going to be oriented records. Now look that up. There is a lot of options for this. Again, you kind of want to do your little homework with this. So data frame to JSON. Okay. There's a lot of options. And one thing that I found, so this is like split how you want it to look, indent on 4, right? So there's a lot of things like that. And then let's go ahead and say there's a lot of different options, read JSON, write to Excel. Just keep that in mind. So let's minimize this. And the one thing that we want to do is write data to JSON. We want our orientation to be records. This lines equal true is very important. Okay. Oh, I'm not passing that in. That's why. Okay. So this lines equal true means it's going to write it out as lines. And what that's going to do is make it where it will work for Hadoop. So let's watch this and see what happens. So let's just go ahead and run. And you'll see what I mean by Hadoop is pretty picky. So let's get rid of all these and just run. Okay, and then we're gonna just kind of step over, make sure there's no errors, and then stop. And now if you look here, it's all, okay, yeah, I get that. It's all one single line, right? So at this point, it's like a dictionary. But there's no square brackets, there's no commas at the end. Like it's bad practice for JSON, but it's what Hadoop expects. So here, normally you would have a comma after this, and this would be like a list of arrays, right? Technically this is, not arrays, dictionaries. Technically this is a dictionary, name key value. So if you know anything about Python, this is a dictionary. And a lot of times you make it a list of dictionaries, which by default is an array. But in this case, it's just flat, no comma. So if I do this, then Glue, Amazon Glue, will be able to crawl it. If you don't do that, there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of documentation of people flattening JSON and accessing JSON, and there's some really good documents out there on that, but I think I like this way better. Everything is in Python. And again, you can also bring in PySpark, and it has a lot of options, but you kind of need to know PySpark at that point. This, you don't really need to know anything besides Pandas, and I would say a massive amount of Python developers know Pandas. In fact, I think I already said it, there's a Lambda out there, an Amazon Lambda that has the Pandas package in it, which is kind of cool. Now, what we want to do now is bulk send that back up.